Here with this week's hottest stories in the investment world, this is Zach's Friday Finish Line.
Hello and welcome to the Zach's Friday Finish Line. I am Ryan McQueeney, a content writer here at Zach's, joined as always by one of our editors, Maddy Johnson.
Hello, as always. Today is Friday. It's
Name
February,
of the game in here, yeah.
February 23rd. We're almost done with February. It literally flew by. And we're here to recap this week's biggest stories from the investment and financial world. The national spotlight has been fixated on Florida over the past few days, and I know my personal spotlight has also been tuned in to what's been going on in that state. As survivors of the horrific school shooting voice their opinions about the need for gun control on a global stage, inspiring walkouts and protests around the country.
Yeah, and meanwhile, on Wall Street, stock indexes moved back into the green for the year during the shortened trading week. And although volatility still seems to be looming above everyone, investors did breathe a sigh of relief throughout the week.
So we're going to start this week by talking about the brand new blockbuster that debuted over the weekend. We'll be traveling to Wakanda, discussing Marvel's Black Panther to see what kind of impact the movie can make for Disney.
Yeah, so over the holiday weekend, Black Panther crushed initial projections and brought in roughly $240 million at the domestic box office. The film, which stars Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, and many more, had an estimated budget of $200 million, and early projections were calling for a debut of $100 million to $120 million in the opening weekend. Again, this is the latest installment in Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe. Black Panther crushed all of those initial estimates, eventually earning a total of $242 million at about 4,000 North American locations, which actually topped the 4-day domestic opening total for Star Wars: The Last Jedi and moved into second place all-time in terms of 4-day opens. The movie also recorded the 5th largest opening weekend ever. So what does this mean for Disney? Obviously, it's a nice thing when your $242 million holiday open just surpasses your previous record, second of all time, Star Wars: Last Jedi. We're looking at now like all it's Star Wars, Force Awakens, Black Panther, Last Jedi for those 4-day weekend records, and those are all Disney movies within the past few years here. So sitting pretty if you're Disney, with a lot of future potential in all these franchises that we're talking about as well. But just looking at studio entertainment revenues for Disney in fiscal 2017, actually dropped by 11% to touch $8.38 billion total. And in the first quarter of fiscal 2018, revenues in that segment also dipped marginally. Of course, year-over-year comparisons are always kind of iffy based off of released schedules. And looking at Black Panther specifically, it seems like a successful new series in what has grown into a ginormous Marvel Cinematic Universe is going to help the company as it starts its over-the-top streaming platform that we've talked about being boosted by the Fox acquisition. There was more characters coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe potentially with that deal. Now we've got all the Black Panther characters being thrown in there.
The Wasp, Ant-Man and the Wasp
is coming up. Yeah, I believe that they when they first announced the MCU many years ago, they had like structured it into waves. And I think we're on like wave 3 or 4 now at this point that we're starting.
There's this Avengers movie coming out, plus another Avengers movie. So there's still 2 more Avengers movies.
Yeah, we're just at the start of one of the new waves. I can't remember what wave we're on now. But many more to come. And you got to think with the way they're doing these hits, like there's probably Black Panther 2, 3, and 4 already getting the green light, right?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I'm sure like they must have had like a conference call last weekend and was like, so how many more movies can we squeeze out of this?
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? If they were as good as Black Panther, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
'Cause-
So wait, you've seen
yes,
it,
I
right?
have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I have too.
I went
did-
over President's Day
did-
when we had the
did
stock
see
market
it.
holiday. It was great, obviously, and so that definitely helps when it's critically well received.
Yeah.
And another thing I was thinking about while I was watching the movie is that this is going to be great for the parks and resorts division, because you're talking about endless Wakanda ride opportunities, Wakanda park areas that you could really go crazy with. And then also as far as like merch sales.
Oh, yeah, the Disney Store division's going to get a boost.
Yeah, I literally thought while within like the first 30 minutes of the movie, I was like, we're going to be talking about Black Panther again at Halloween.
Oh,
because there's
yeah.
going to be a lot of little Black Panther kids running around
Just
this
like
year.
Wonder Woman last year.
Yeah, exactly. So that's also another thing to consider, especially with these superhero movies for Disney. So I think, yeah, if you're the House of the Mouse, you're sitting pretty right now, really comfortable with what was a great opening weekend for Black Panther. Moving from one industry behemoth to a different industry's mega behemoth company, we had the latest earnings report from Walmart this week.
Yeah, Walmart. Didn't go into a Walmart when I visited my parents on President's Day weekend. Usually I do to pick up some random stuff. Didn't this weekend. Assuming it's still thriving.
It's there,
with,
it definitely.
with people doing their, whatever they do in Walmart, getting groceries and shampoo. But they reported fourth quarter results before the market opened on Tuesday. So adjusted earnings of $1.33 per share missed the Zacks consensus estimate of $1.36 per share, but adjusted earnings grew 2.3% from $1.30 reported in the year-ago quarter. Total revenues advanced 4.1% to $136.3 billion, and also surpassed the Zacks consensus estimate of about $135 billion. Looking at comps for the U.S., and this is excluding fuel, comps jumped 2.6%, and that's compared with a 1.8% growth in the prior year quarter. And notably, this was the 14th consecutive quarter of positive comps, and not many brick and mortar retailers can say that.
No.
And e-commerce sales in the segment jumped 23%, and this is much lower than the 50% recorded in the previous quarter. Disappointing for the holiday quarter, but, whatever. Do what you can do. While GMV, gross merchandise volume, surged 24%. Walmart International witnessed positive comps in 9 out of 11 of its quarters, while Sam's Club comps, excluding fuel, rose 2.4%. Have you ever been to a Sam's Club? I know it's like Costco.
Yeah, I have. I briefly lived in North Carolina for 4 years in like the early stages of my life, and we were Sam's Club members when we lived in North Carolina. Yeah,
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's exactly like Costco. So if you've been to one, I'd say it's the exact same experience. I don't know if that's also like a regional thing showing through too. If there's like another Costco like thing on the West Coast or whatever, because I don't even know. Does everyone know what Costco is? If you say
Maybe.
that, I don't know.
That's a good question.
Are we in our Midwest Costco bubble?
Because everyone's like obsessed with Costco here.
Yeah, I remember.
I feel like Sam's Club is like the rural Costco. Like if you don't know Costco, you may know Sam's Club.
Maybe. I have no idea. I guess my only experience was with when I was a kid, and I remember like we would ride around. They have giant carts there, obviously, and we would like go crazy with the giant carts and. Yeah, it's amazing. I love the bulk buy membership clubs. They're tons of fun.
And free samples. But anyways, so back to Walmart's earnings. So the storyline to emerge from the report was the slowdown in e-commerce growth. And with that, the earnings miss in mind, investors they ditched the stock. They were like, #buy. We're kind of over you right now. Peace out. We'll maybe see you later in a little bit. So shares of Walmart WMT are down about 11% from last week's close. But also, yes, e-commerce sales down incredibly from last quarter. But again, a case of a huge company just potentially plateauing in a specific division.
Yeah, exactly.
And just not being able to keep up with like the record pace they were showing in like the previous 4 or 5 quarters.
And especially when that record pace is not even a little bit, like significantly bloated by major acquisitions. So once those acquisitions get in and you start finally having them in the year-over-year comparison, you're gonna slow down a little bit. So to see yourself go from 50% to 23% growth rates in one quarter, obviously that's like a shocking kind of mental exercise for investors. But when you look at the progress overall, it seems natural to me. The earnings miss though could be scaring off some people. So,
sure. Yeah.
Definitely. Walmart keeps trudging along. Moving on to another company that reported earnings this week. Felt like a lot of earnings reports in the shortened week, especially now that we've kind of gotten over the hump of the busy stretch. Still a lot of reports to look at. Talking today about Roku, the video streaming hardware company that recently IPO'd. This was its second ever earnings report as a publicly traded company. Came in after the closing bell on Wednesday. Adjusted earnings was actually a surprise non-GAAP profit. Adjusted earnings coming in at 6 cents per share, beating the Zacks consensus estimate, which called for a loss of 11 cents per share. Roku also recorded revenue figures of $188.3 million in the quarter. And that beat our consensus estimate of $183.2 million. Roku said that it had 19.3 million active accounts at the end of the quarter. That was up 44% year over year, while total streaming hours grew about 59% to reach 14.8 billion hours of streaming in the quarter on Roku's platform. That's pretty cool to see it visualized.
1 billion was all for me.
Average revenue per user, also another key metric there, climbed 48% to touch $13.78. So just to talk us through a couple things to digest here with Roku. The company makes money through the sale of its hardware. Of course, the Roku boxes, the Roku streaming sticks. For those of you who don't know or don't have one, are very similar to a Chromecast or an Apple TV. It's basically like a hardware device that lets you cut the cord. You get the access to the Netflix apps and the HBO apps and the whatnots. But Roku's also focusing on kind of growing its advertising revenue. So that's why when you look at average revenue per user climbing, you're talking about the company maybe being able to capitalize on its platform to get ad revenues, which is going to be kind of an interesting growth catalyst for them over the next few years. Obviously, Google and Apple have probably the upper hand as far as hardware, but who knows, I guess. Obviously, Roku, great foundation thus far. However, investors not a huge fan of this report due to the company's guidance for the upcoming quarter. The company expects Q1 revenues in the range of $120 to $130 million. That's on the low end of our current consensus estimate heading into the report, which sat at $129.9 million. That sluggish outlook was enough to send investors fleeing. Roku lost about 16% on Thursday. I think it may be a bit of an overreaction. However, Roku trading at kind of ridiculous valuations anyway. One of these recent IPOs that investors love to pile on for growth opportunities. One reason why I think is maybe a bit overblown in terms of reacting to that guidance is the company still expects full year revenues in the range of $660 million to $690 million, which is actually quite a bit ahead of our consensus mark heading into the report, which sat at 656.9 million. So sluggish guidance for Q1, but pretty decent guidance for the full year. And some interesting stats to note for Roku, a young company in the video streaming world. Moving on from video streaming to maybe some music streaming, as we'll get at here.
Least favorite headline I think I've seen this week.
So we had Facebook making waves in the streaming business.
Potentially launching a music streaming service? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
We'll get more to we'll ask the rumors.
They are rumors.
Yes,
they
hard and fast rumors.
Only rumors.
Yes, of course.
But
we love a nice rumor on the finish.
Yeah. I mean,
we're not above it. We're not above a
gossip.
rumor.
I love gossip. Anyways. But regardless of rumors and gossip, Facebook has been in the news a lot lately, and they've been drawing a lot of negative attention related to Special Counsel Mueller's indictment of Russian trolls that infiltrated Facebook communities. So the social media giant shed some of that flack this week after it agreed to a new deal with ICE, a pan-European online rights hub. A lot of words there. So the ICE described this agreement as a landmark deal, and it marks the social media behemoth's first partnership with a digital-only music licensing firm. So Facebook's agreement with ICE covers 290,000 rights holders across 160 territories, and the deal allows Mark Zuckerberg's company to license these files on Facebook, Instagram, Oculus, and Messenger. So while the deal with ICE is Facebook's first with an online rights distributor, the company has been busy building relationships with major record deals and publishing agencies over the past several months. And this just makes me think of Mark Zuckerberg making deals, the record executives, going into offices, he's kind of nerdy and nerdy in the best possible way, but just not very smooth. I mean,
I wonder what kind
really
of music
smooth.
he listens to.
That's what I'm saying. Probably Coldplay.
Yeah,
not that there's
lot of
anything
Coldplay.
wrong with
No,
Coldplay.
absolutely not.
Love Coldplay.
Great
but
band. However, lots and
so
lots of Coldplay
vanilla.
in Zuckerberg's office, definitely.
But back in December, Facebook inked a multi-year licensing deal with Universal Music Group, which was quickly followed by a separate deal with Sony/ATV Music.
And not to cut you off there,
Yeah.
for people who don't, for the listeners out there who might not be 100% in tune with the music industry, those are the two biggest music publishers in the United States.
Right.
So those are huge, huge, huge deals.
Yeah. And Facebook also recently agreed to licensing deals with Global Music Rights, HFA/Rumblefish, and Cobalt Music Publishing. So with all of this kind of taken together, these moves have inspired a flock of new rumors/gossip that Facebook might be preparing to kind of put together a music streaming service like Spotify, Apple Music, or possibly an internet radio service like Pandora.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just look. Before we get 100% into the rumors, right? Because we've now embraced them full on. We're talking about, just to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 deals before this week's new announcement, and then this sixth one, the sixth major deal here being something that's going to cover basically the entire continent of Europe. As I mentioned, UMG and Sony. Those are going to be two of the biggest record labels in North America. Something's clearly going on here, and this is all happening over the past 2.5 months. Clearly making a play in some capacity, and I think before we kind of add our opinions to how a Facebook music streaming service would function, because I certainly have some questions there. The only other thing I can think of other than Facebook adding music hosting to its site in some capacity, the only other reason I can think of that they go out and sign these deals is we know that they've been expanding original content, live streaming, things like that. Mm-hmm. And so you're also going to want to have if you want to host video content and you want creatives to come in and make original content, you you have to give your creators licensing deals with like it makes sense that you'd want to have music licensed for people to use. But I don't know if you go and sign 6 major licensing deals just so, you know, your original content creators can use music in their videos. I don't know if that's what it's for.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe if you see something, you see a surge of like maybe they want to host music videos on the site more like YouTube
that's kind
does.
of what I've been thinking. So, or you're a Spotify user, right?
Yeah.
You know how in some of their widely listened to playlists, like it's like a top 40 playlist, but like top hits now, or I don't know what it's called. And it's like it's designed differently now. So if instead of like just like the album artwork and then like the song title and then like the play or pause button, the album artwork takes up like your whole phone screen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a music video.
Sure.
Well, I'm wondering if that's kind of what Facebook is looking to do now, is partner with certain artists under these labels to debut music videos on Facebook instead of on Spotify. Because like Selena Gomez was debuting like songs and like new songs and new videos at the same time everywhere.
Yes,
So it would be like the new song and video would drop on Spotify. The new song would be on iTunes.
Yeah.
All of that in like the same time.
Yeah. They do to add to exactly what you were saying on the Spotify thing, like a playlist like Rap Caviar, which has like
Follow it.
millions and millions of
Yes.
followers. One of their most popular ones, curated by real Spotify employees. More so than just music videos, they'll have like interviews. I know they and they'll just throw that stuff in the playlist, and then they added the like behind the lyrics feature,
Yes,
which is
that's great.
You can watch the lyrics as you're listening and hear what the artists take on them and all that stuff, which is you're interacting, you're getting the extra content, and you're interacting on a deeper level with the artist and the music. Which seems like something that would make sense in the world of social media as well. You know, interacting with artists and music, but then also being able to interact with your friends, sharing music, discussing music. It seems like would be a place for that some way. Obviously, I'm not a Facebook user experience wizard who's out in California dreaming this up right now, but it seems like it could fit, especially when you think about 2 billion monthly active users on Facebook these days, or well over 2 billion. There's a audience out there that would have access to it, certainly. So I don't know. It's interesting. You know, I think people would probably have asked the same questions like 2 or 3 years ago when Facebook was really first starting and talking about pivoting to video. Like, hey, do we really need to do that? Do we really need to reinvent the wheel here? Do we need to add different types of content to a system that's already working? Turned out to be a huge success. So I don't know. Maybe music is another avenue to go into.
Look at what they've done with Instagram.
Definitely.
So
I just want to look it over. Yeah, we do have the Instagram popping up in the ICE deal. So that's another outlet for it, right? Could you do music videos on Instagram? I guess,
through
right?
stories.
Yeah.
Right. So if like let's say Selena Gomez, she has a crazy amount of followers on Instagram, and she was like, I want to debut my new music video
on Instagram.
That's
crazy, but
and
I guess if it
on
worked,
Instagram stories. So it's like it might be like a really long story.
Yeah.
But it could work.
Different than what's happening right now, but they certainly use
Or they
the
could be
platform as
like,
promotional.
or it could be a music video curated for Instagram stories. So it's like interactive.
Yeah, they're working
It'd be,
together
like,
with
different.
the artists.
And then you would have like your traditional music video on YouTube or Vivo or whatever. Then you would have like a different curated one for Instagram stories.
Yeah, definitely. Good point. I would think that they could put teams together that could work on kind of artist development stuff like that, and it would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, certainly something.
Because then Facebook has their own version of stories, right? So then it
Right.
could just, when you hit upload, it would go to Instagram and to Facebook.
Boom, and it'd be right there at the top for anybody to see.
Yeah.
Another thing to consider here, another thing to remember is these organizations like ICE, they're around to make sure that artists are getting paid, that people who are using their licensed music are accurately keeping their royalties data, and then that artists that they represent are getting paid accurate amounts of money based off of that data. So we know, based on this agreement, ICE and Facebook are going to be working together in these early stages to make sure that that royalties data is collected properly. Why and for what reason, we obviously don't know. But it's more than just Facebook having the rights to put this music on its site, and also it factors in like the artist then getting paid the right amount of money for the usage of that. So, when you're streaming on Spotify, there's surely been lots of debate as to how much Spotify is paying and whether it makes sense and whether it's an accurate representation of the work and whatnot. But they are paying out artists nonetheless. It might not be a lot, but royalties do get paid out to the artists and the record labels. So that's kind of part of why Facebook would want to work with a group like ICE is they're going to be able to handle a lot of the strategy there, like the mechanics of it. So I don't know. Obviously, we've speculated about a lot of things. It seems like there are a lot of ways that it could work, though, be it Facebook, Instagram, what have you. And Facebook's been wrong on so few things thus far, it seems like. so few new things that they've tried haven't worked. So something to keep an eye on there. Although, disclaimer, just rumors. But that, I think, just about does it for us this week. Feel free to shoot us an email at podcast@zax.com if you have any takes on Facebook's music streaming service, or if you feel that we missed anything this week. You can also check out all of our other exclusive audio content at zax.com/podcasts. Remember to subscribe and leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts if you enjoyed the show. Thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Zax Friday Finish Line.